Yo, we back. Head to heads. We back. And we are going to discuss the Philadelphia Fusion today, who I believe are still the second best team in North America.
Josh. That was yesterday, Matt. Give it up. Leave it alone.
Josh got an earful from Yaki before we recorded that one. So he sided with Florida. But this one, he's going to have to talk about Philly, and he's going to have to do it in a, well, mostly positive light. I mean, you could take the negative. You said their lineup sucked. But I wanted to discuss who you think is the best lineup that Philly could put out there, in my opinion. So from what we've seen, I think Sato's played great this year, by the way. I think, me and you may have been the only two people in the Sato fan club on the planet where...
Whoa. You're trying to retroactively add yourself to the Sato fan club?
I was in the Sato fan club. Look, there were some times where he played like a total dumbass, but like his mechanical skill, like eventually you're going to figure it out. If you're that mechanically talented, like just playing the game enough, you'll figure out the other shit. Like it's just bound to happen. I think in the off tank role, I want to see Fury more. Sure. I know that Poco's been playing well. I don't think he's been playing bad at all. I just know the level that Fury has played at in the past and what we've seen him do and how we've seen him aid an aggressive player like Gesture at times. Who Gesture you see sometimes now without Fury playing with Marvel, it's way different. Like a Fury, think about how many times we've had big plays with him with Defense Matrix, always in the right spot at the right time to mitigate that damage. I want to see him in the lineup more for sure. Carpe, don't really think there's much I need to explain there on why I would like to see him in the lineup. Watch 5 seconds of him play and you'd understand why. I think the other biggest spot other than off tank is the second DPS spot. Their lineup, their roster has Hisu, Ivy, and EQO for this position. EQO has kind of been the player they've kind of gone to in the past, the first 2 seasons of the Overwatch League. They've gone to him like lately a decent amount. Hisu's been getting some more love, some more play as of late. Where I thought they've looked the best and the most rock solid was earlier in the season when they were playing Ivy the most. And it may have been just for those weeks and those metas. But we saw bright spots from Ivy last year on the Toronto Defiant, and we know he can be a nice complement to a hit scan where he can play a lot of 76 McCree. Carpe can play Tracer. We've seen Ivy play May. Like we know he has heroes that are in kind of like that world that he can play at a high level. The only thing is can he play the flex damage dealers, which we haven't really seen him play too much of. Like that's why you see the EQO and the Hisus coming in. But I think U4 may play style kind of like how Florida has, and you can play some more hit scan oriented stuff maybe in the second half of the year, and you can have Ivy play more. Alarm, I think Alarm's been sick. I don't think he's disappointed at all. And then Funny Astro obviously rounding out in the main support.
I think there's Chipsa should not be played. Let's start there because that's a portion of common ground, right? The lineup, it's better without Chipsa. There's a reason that we didn't mention him.
If you're going off of the bar of just like how things work, right? If you get a 2-week contract, and Chipsa's on the roster, he should definitely play. Like if you're kind of looking at the metrics in that way.
True.
Like if a player of your caliber gets a 2-week contract and he has a full-time contract, he should definitely be eligible to play.
Okay, but he would not be the best roster for the Philadelphia Fusion. I also want to break this down like kind of piece by piece.
Sometimes you don't need the best roster.
The whole discussion is about the best roster for the Fusion, Matt. You just spent 3 minutes talking about it.
Well, I mean, you play against the Titans or Boss if all this talk goes out the window. I mean, play me for God's sake.
Now, when they've been playing their variety of supports in the past, I want to kind of chunk this down for supports, then tanks, then DPS, because I think that you can with the Fusion lineup. So with their supports in the past, they have subbed in Funny Astro and Alarm to play together as that double flex support line whenever they want to play the Batiste Zen. It's bit them in the ass a couple of times.
Boombox. You mean Boombox?
Sorry, I do.
Alarm.
Yes, I mean Boombox and Alarm for the Batiste and the Zen. It's bit them in the ass a couple of times because then they can never swap off to play the Lucio. And in my opinion, Funny Astro's Batiste is good enough that just keep Alarm on the Zen. Like Alarm's going to do ridiculous work on the Zenyatta anyway, and you don't really need that. I feel like that's trying to optimize your lineup too much to the point where you give up some flexibility and it's actually going to hurt you. And it has done in some of their matches.
That's what I feel like. That's honestly how I feel like Philly's kind of operated throughout the later parts of the season, is that they've been trying to manage this roster so much and like kind of move people around. That They've done it too much.
And for the tank line, I mean, obviously you were inside of the whole time. That's not a discussion, and he's been playing very well this year. The off-tank discussion is interesting because when Christopher came on, I think it was the Tactical Crouch podcast, because they allow guests of Christopher's caliber.
Yeah, not Plat Chat, another podcast.
Unsullied by guests since 2019. Did we start the podcast in 2019? I can't even remember.
Yeah, we'll have a guest soon, but yeah, I guess sure.
Yeah. He said that it was random between Poco and Fury. And then Poco in my chat, when I was answering this question, Poco popped into my chat in a companion stream and said, "It's random, bro," when I was trying to theory craft it. Now, I've gone back over the data.
There's no
I've grinded the data, and there is no way.
They just flip a coin, bro. Yeah. There's no way.
No, they are trolls, and they
spin the bottle, and whoever it lands on, they fucking play.
But I've figured out the system, Matthew. I figured out the system. So the beginning of the year, they were running majority Poco, and Poco still has more time across the whole of 2020 than Fury does. But if you narrow the stats down to the last 2 months, so April and May, so kind of the run up to the May tournament, but not just that one meta, that kind of opens it up to without hero pools in the May tournament, the hero pool of the weeks running up to the May tournament, and all of the hero pools in April. So it's a variety of different metas. They've been running more Fury. They've been running 4 hours and 50 of Fury compared to 2 hours and 47 of Poco.
Do you think it's because it was like a quick fix solution to have Poco play with Sato at the beginning of the season because they had played with each other for so long at this point, and then they're trying to work Fury in?
Yes, I do think that. And I also think that part of it was because it's been a while since Fury played in a mixed language lineup as well. He used to way back in the day on Team Liquid, but I mean, God knows whether he has even kept any kind of communication skills
all those memories from his brain.
Exactly. So I'm not sure how efficient his communication was at that point, but maybe that also played into it. Now, another interesting thing as well is that if you go back over the match data, almost all the time in the recent past, I'm talking like April and May, Fury comes in when they're playing with EQO or playing more dive stuff. So anytime they're playing Sombra Tracer, anytime they're playing the Echo, anything that isn't May, basically. Anytime they're not playing a Reinhardt composition, Fury is in recent past. But Poco plays whenever Ivy does. So whenever they want to run this kind of May comp with the rush
control
stuff,
type comp,
exactly, the kind of stuff that they were playing all at the beginning of the season, that's when Poco comes in, and he sometimes plays the Zarya, but he's mostly playing the D.Va in those circumstances. I kind of like that. I'm not going to lie. I think that in a hero pools format, I feel like maybe there is no one best roster. Maybe the system that they've got going here where they split their off-tank not so much based on map or based on even opponent or whatever, but based on the style of comp that they're playing. I think that makes a lot of sense, because once you're in a game, you know roughly what compositions you're going to be playing because of the meta, because of the map. And so if you plug in that guy who knows exactly how to play, it allows the off-tanks to specialize a bit more.
It doesn't bother me like rotating damage dealers. Like that doesn't really bother me that much. What bothers me is rotating off-tanks, because we've never really seen, I'm trying to think in my head before I say this, but we've never really seen a team rotate through off tanks like in a successful manner.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We've never seen it. Like the Shock, even last year, they would switch out main tanks a bunch, but Choi always in the game. The fucking Vancouver last year, right?
Yeah,
I know Bumper. They don't even play with Bumper in the playoffs, and they play Janu the whole time. You think of NYXL, like Meko played the entire time mono, but even then, like Manu, and they would switch out for Janice at times. Every successful team's never had that issue. Even Florida now, if you want to kind of compare Florida as a successful team, Karayan and Fate in and out, Gargoyle always in.
I suppose the only one that I can possibly think of, Matt, is the Atlanta Reign last year, where they would swap between Daco and FRD. But I always believed Daco was better, and I think that they did that for like behind the scenes reasons.
Yeah, they did it because Daco wasn't working out behind the scenes. But think of every other team. Like we've never had a team that was successfully kind of rotating out flex tanks in terms of like how they want to play stylistically. Like that's usually more of a main tank thing. You would usually swap out the main tank for a stylistic difference rather than the off tank, because like the off tank is not like the integral part of that aggressive play style. It's really the main tank kind of turning his switch on from go to stop and stop to go. So that I don't have an issue with the damage dealers. Look, if you want to rotate through Hisu, Ivy, and EQO, go right ahead. I just think they need to make a decision in terms of the off tank. I feel like that'll end up hurting Sato and this team much more in the long run.
I think that when I watched them play in the May tournament recently, when they were making these swaps, for me, I did want them to just settle down on an off tank, and I preferred the way that Fury played in that tournament. And they were still swapping, right? Like they were okay. They were playing against the Florida Mayhem in that final match, and they ended up losing to them 3-1. But Fury was so much better at being able to shut down Yaki. And okay, he wins a map and he loses a map, Fury, so he still has a 50% win rate. But I feel like Poco was not effective at being able to shut down the DPS, and there were way larger strategic failures from the Philadelphia Fusion. But I did notice a difference between Fury coming in and being able to apply more pressure and shut down Yaki a little bit more. So I think that could be of benefit to them, but there is a theoretical advantage to having Poco play that. I mean, you never need to teach Fury how to play the Reinhardt comps. He can spend all of his brain power focusing on dive and double shield.
But what happens if you have this switch, or you want to switch? You can't just that's why it's just I don't know if that's a recipe for success in the long term. Like I'm looking through some of the teams last year, and there's not one in the upper half that was successful at swapping out an off tank.
Yeah, it doesn't really get done.
No, even back to the inaugural season. Like I mean that stuff almost doesn't even matter anymore. But NYXL always had Meko in, would swap, Mono and Janus. The Valiant, Space was always in. Boston, Note was always in, regardless of what they decided to do. The Gladiators, they had Void in the whole time.
They had Bishu at the beginning until they got Void.
At the beginning,
as soon as they got Void, they just ran Void the full time, as far as I can remember.
Right. Even Philly kept Poco in the whole time and switched between Fraggy and Sato halfway through the season. It's a weird dynamic to change your off tank. The only times we've really seen it successfully is when teams kind of had a combination, right? Where if you were Seoul Dynasty and you had Marvel and Michelle and then Fissure and Zunba, right? You kind of had duos set up.
Yeah.
But I just don't love the feel of that long term. I think they need to decide on an off tank. I'm willing to concede on the damage dealers. You want to swap the damage dealers, as long as you don't take out Carpe, I'm good.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. I feel like Carpe Hisu is fine if you want to run double hit scan. But the rest of the time, Carpe should be your hit scan player. The guy is freakishly good, and he's been putting on a masterclass performance this entire year. I think he's still leading for all-time KD. If the season ended right now, he would be at the lead, at the top in terms of people that have consistently managed to maintain a top KD over the course of a season. And EQO at the moment, I would only really be bringing him in to play the Junkrat and to play the Echo as well. I feel like the rest of the time, Carpe and Ivy is your go-to DPS.
I wish I could just merge a little bit of EQO into Ivy.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm good.
The aggressive tendencies, the playmaking alongside Carpe. Yeah, I think that was what was really special about watching him in the past. But EQO's better heroes were the Genji, the Junkrat.
His Genji was unbelievable.
Yeah, but those don't really get played anymore. And maybe if they see a recurrence, then possibly we might see him in the lineup. But until then, I think it's Carpe and EQO make the most sense. But I must say that I don't lack faith in the Fusion rotations yet. I haven't. Yeah. I don't think that was the reason they lost the May Melee. Right? I don't think that was the reason that they didn't finish in the grand finals as people expected them to. And I don't think that it's made them lose any major series so far this year. So I'm personally happy to allow the experimentation to continue up until it detracts. I go for it. Try and find the best lineups for the best maps and the best metas possible. Wiggle your roster around if you need to until it fails. Keep trying and aiming for that percentage increase in value. But if it bites you in the butt, give up.
Right. Yeah, that's what I want to see. I almost want to see them take the time for the rest of the season, try all of these out. And by the time we're down to like a few weeks before, the final dance, I want to see them commit to a team, to a roster. I feel like it's not going to bite them right now, but it's something that will bite them in the future if they don't kind of start building that foundation for a lineup of one lineup that can kind of handle any situation.
And arguably, I mean, I was just saying that it hasn't really bit them in any of these games, but we always think about the Philadelphia Fusion as being quite a sloppy, individualistic team, insanely skilled and really clutch, and they've got a lot of small team coordination, like they sync up little abilities with each other, and they're all generally on the same page, but they don't play really tight. They don't have a lot of preset combos and holds and stuff. They kind of roam around the map a bit more, and they have a bit more freedom to make plays if they need to. That's true. That you could arguably say, you could reasonably make a case that one of the reasons for that is because they haven't just stuck with a lineup and drilled things and made sure that they have unbelievably good teamwork.
I mean, I think that's also a topic for another day, where I genuinely believe that's where the game is kind of going now. It's trending with hero pools more towards I don't want to say free for all, but I think we're kind of slowly moving in the way of like individual skill and playmaking, and a little bit less of the team coordination aspect of it. But that's for another day. We're done with today's topic. Who do you guys think Philly should be playing? Do you think Chipsa should be in? If you do, put a like on the video. We'll see you next time.